Jeff Bezos didn't start Amazon because he loved books. That story sounds nice in interviews, but it hides what was actually happening inside his head. Books were just the beginning. The real obsession was scale. Systems that could grow endlessly, systems that could survive competitors, absorb industries, and eventually become so deeply embedded into everyday life that people stopped noticing them entirely. And once you start looking at Amazon that way, the company stops feeling like an online store. It starts feeling more like a machine that slowly consumed huge parts of the modern internet. Because Amazon didn't just change shopping, it changed logistics, cloud computing, publishing, streaming, data infrastructure, consumer psychology, delivery systems, advertising, AI infrastructure, and eventually the behavior of hundreds of millions of people. Huge sections of the modern internet quietly run through Amazon systems every single day. Netflix runs on Amazon servers. Startups run on Amazon servers. Government agencies use Amazon infrastructure. Apps, websites, streaming platforms, AI tools, delivery systems, massive parts of digital life flow through Amazon underneath the surface. But the strangest part is how early Bezos started thinking this way. Long before Amazon dominated global commerce, he already talked like someone trying to build infrastructure powerful enough to reshape human behavior permanently. Former employees later described an environment obsessed with metrics, speed, experimentation, customer psychology, and relentless long-term expansion. Inside Amazon, growth wasn't treated like success. Growth was survival. Slow down looked dangerous. Comfort looked dangerous. And over time, that mentality transformed Amazon into one of the most powerful systems ever built by a private company. But none of this looked inevitable in the beginning. Early internet culture still felt awkward and unstable when Bezos first became obsessed with it. During the early 1990s, most people barely understood what the internet would become. Websites looked primitive. Online shopping sounded sketchy. People connected through painfully slow dial-up modems that screeched before loading web pages. Ordering products online felt risky. Giving websites your credit card information sounded insane to millions of people. Amazon mainly sold books because books were one of the few product categories large enough to demonstrate internet-scale inventory. Physical bookstores could only stock limited selections. Amazon theoretically could stock millions of titles. But Bezos didn't care about books emotionally. He cared about proving a larger idea. The internet could eventually absorb retail itself. And the obsession started with one statistic that basically hijacked his brain. Internet usage was reportedly growing around 2,300% per year, 2,300%. Bezos later described discovering that number almost like stumbling onto a law of nature before everyone else noticed it existed. At the time, he worked at D.E. Shaw, one of the most prestigious hedge funds on Wall Street. Elite career, huge upside, stable future, the kind of life most people spend decades trying to achieve. Then Bezos walked away from it because he became obsessed with the internet's growth curve. He later explained the decision through something he called a regret minimization framework. He imagined himself at 80 years old, looking back on life, and realized he would regret missing the internet revolution far more than he would regret failure. So he quit Wall Street, got into a car with his wife, and started building Amazon's business plan during a cross-country road trip. And this next part almost sounds too cliché to be real now. Amazon started in Bezos's garage. One of the most powerful corporations in modern history began with cheap furniture and desks reportedly built from wooden doors because Bezos thought normal office desks cost too much money. Door desks eventually became legendary inside Amazon culture, not because the company couldn't afford real desks anymore, but because Bezos became obsessed with preserving a culture of efficiency even after Amazon became gigantic. Employees quickly learned something important about Bezos. He hated waste, almost psychologically. Waste of money, waste of time, waste of meetings, waste of energy, waste of talent. Former executives later described Bezos as someone who viewed speed almost like a moral virtue. If competitors moved slowly, Amazon could eventually outrun them, and early Amazon employees absolutely felt that pressure. The company remained chaotic for years. Workers manually packed books on warehouse floors. Employees sometimes crawled across facilities, trying to hit shipping deadlines during holiday rushes. During intense periods, some workers reportedly slept inside warehouses because demand overwhelmed infrastructure completely. And this is where the story starts becoming less like a startup documentary and more like a psychological study in obsession. Bezos didn't want Amazon to feel comfortable. Comfortable companies slowed down. Comfortable employees stopped inventing. Comfortable systems became vulnerable. One former executive later claimed Bezos intentionally maintained a sense of constant urgency even after Amazon became successful because he feared stability more than chaos. Internally, Amazon started operating almost like a company terrified of becoming average. Then Bezos became obsessed with something even more important than products: customer behavior. Former employees described empty chairs placed inside meetings representing the customer. Bezos wanted employees constantly thinking about friction from the customer perspective. Slow delivery, friction. Confusing website, friction. Higher prices, friction. Limited selection, friction. Every tiny inconvenience mattered. And over time, Amazon became extraordinarily good at removing friction from commerce. One-click ordering, personalized recommendations, fast delivery, reviews, subscriptions, prime shipping, small changes individually, massive behavioral shifts collectively. And this is one reason Amazon became so dangerous competitively. Bezos understood something many traditional retailers completely missed during the 1990s. Once convenience becomes habit, people rarely go backward voluntarily. Amazon wasn't just selling products, it was training behavior. Over time, customers stopped visiting Amazon consciously. They defaulted to it automatically. But while customers increasingly loved Amazon, life inside the company became infamous for intensity. Bezos developed a reputation as one of the most demanding leaders in Silicon Valley. Meetings could become brutal. Some employees later recalled Bezos interrupting presentations with lines like, "Are you lazy or just incompetent?" Others described executives leaving meetings in tears. Former Amazon workers sometimes talked about the company almost like survivors describing military culture. Bezos reportedly had a huge explosive laugh that employees learned to interpret psychologically during meetings. Sometimes the laugh meant excitement. Other times it meant somebody was about to get destroyed publicly. And Bezos hated PowerPoint presentations. He believed bullet points encouraged shallow thinking. So Amazon replaced slide decks with detailed six-page narrative memos. At the beginning of meetings, executives reportedly sat silently reading documents together before discussions even started. It looked strange to outsiders, but Bezos believed clear writing reflected clear thinking. And honestly, that obsession with structured thinking became one reason Amazon executed so effectively while scaling. The company increasingly operated less like a retailer and more like an engineered system optimized for expansion. Then Amazon survived something that should have killed it completely: the dot-com crash. During the late 1990s, internet companies exploded everywhere. Investors threw money at almost anything connected to the web. Then, the bubble collapsed. Hundreds of startups died almost overnight. Silicon Valley shifted from euphoric optimism into panic within months. And Amazon looked vulnerable too. The company lost terrifying amounts of money while expanding aggressively. Critics mocked Bezos publicly. Analysts questioned whether Amazon's business model even made sense. One magazine famously put Bezos on a cover asking whether Amazon had become Amazon.bomb. And honestly, the criticism wasn't irrational. Amazon genuinely looked financially insane at times. Bezos kept reinvesting money aggressively instead of maximizing short-term profits. Warehouses, infrastructure, expansion, logistics, technology, distribution systems. Investors struggled to understand why Amazon constantly sacrificed profits for growth. But Bezos thought differently. He believed internet markets rewarded long-term dominance more than short-term optimization. And this became one of the defining psychological traits separating Amazon from many competitors. Bezos tolerated years of criticism. While building infrastructure most competitors didn't fully understand yet. Then Amazon expanded beyond books, electronics, toys, clothing, home goods, streaming, advertising, groceries, AI, healthcare, logistics. At some point, people stopped asking what Amazon sold because the answer increasingly became almost everything. But maybe the most important moment in Amazon history happened almost accidentally. Because while Amazon expanded its retail empire, the company quietly built internal cloud infrastructure capable of handling internet-scale traffic. Then somebody inside Amazon realized something enormous. Other companies probably needed the same infrastructure too. That idea became Amazon Web Services. AWS eventually transformed into one of the most profitable and powerful businesses in modern technology. And this is where the story stops feeling like retail and starts feeling almost dystopian. Because most people still think Amazon is mainly an online shopping company. In reality, Amazon became one of the foundational infrastructure layers underneath the modern internet itself. Huge parts of the digital world run on AWS, Netflix, Airbnb, Twitch, streaming platforms, government systems, AI startups, millions of websites. Sometimes when AWS experiences major outages, giant sections of the internet suddenly break with it. That's how deeply Amazon embedded itself into digital life. Bezos didn't just build a retailer. He helped build the operating system underneath modern business itself. And the obsession with long-term scale kept intensifying. Amazon Prime changed consumer psychology dramatically. Before Prime, customers consciously considered shipping costs while shopping online. After Prime, ordering products started feeling psychologically frictionless because shipping no longer felt like a separate purchasing decision. Prime subtly trained customers to default toward Amazon automatically. And Bezos understood something terrifyingly well. The most powerful companies don't simply sell products, they reshape habits. Once habits form at massive scale, competitors struggle to break them. Over time, Amazon stopped feeling like a website people occasionally visited. It became infrastructure people subconsciously depended on. And meanwhile, the company's ambition kept expanding outward. Fulfillment centers everywhere. Cargo planes, trucks, delivery systems, robotics, AI infrastructure, Alexa, grocery stores, movie studios, data centers, smart home technology. Entire suburban landscapes slowly filled with Amazon warehouses and delivery vehicles. At some point, Amazon stopped competing with stores. it started competing with infrastructure itself. And the company's internal systems became increasingly controversial too. Reports emerged describing warehouse workers monitored by algorithms tracking productivity constantly. Drivers allegedly urinated in bottles because delivery schedules became so extreme. Employees described terrifying pressure around metrics and quotas. Critics increasingly argued Amazon treated workers like components inside a machine optimized entirely for efficiency. Warehouse injury rates became controversial. Labor activists accused the company of building a system that prioritized productivity over human limits. And this is what makes Amazon psychologically fascinating. The same obsession that helped create one of the most effective companies in history also created enormous controversy around labor, surveillance, monopolistic power, and corporate influence. Bezos admired invention and experimentation intensely, but Amazon's culture increasingly reflected relentless optimization at civilization's scale. The company became extraordinarily good at measuring human behavior, productivity, logistics, and attention. And its influence spread far beyond shopping. Amazon transformed publishing through Kindle, cloud computing through AWS, streaming through Prime Video and Twitch, smart home technology through Alexa, independent retail through Marketplace, logistics through its delivery systems. Even internet culture itself started changing around Amazon. Millions of businesses became dependent on the same platform that could potentially destroy them. Some sellers built entire fortunes through Amazon. Others accused Amazon of copying successful products and crushing competitors using marketplace data. Governments started investigating antitrust concerns. Critics worried Amazon gained too much control over commerce infrastructure globally. And through all of it, Bezos remained obsessed with long-term thinking. Former employees described Amazon's internal mentality almost like permanent future planning. Bezos constantly asked what would still matter years from now rather than chasing temporary trends. That mindset helped Amazon survive while countless competitors disappeared. But it also created something much larger than a successful company: scale without clear stopping points. Because once a company becomes infrastructure, growth starts compounding differently. Retail connects to logistics. Logistics connects to cloud computing. Cloud computing connects to AI. AI connects to data infrastructure. Data infrastructure connects to advertising. Over time, Amazon stopped looking like one company and started looking more like an ecosystem swallowing industries one layer at a time. And meanwhile, Bezos himself became increasingly obsessed with another idea entirely: space. Long before stepping down as Amazon CEO, Bezos quietly funded Blue Origin with billions of dollars. He reportedly sold Amazon stock regularly to finance the company. Because while the public associated Bezos with e-commerce, he often described space exploration as his real, long-term passion. And honestly, this tells you something important about Bezos psychologically. Amazon was never purely about commerce. It was about systems thinking at massive scale: infrastructure, expansion, long-term civilization building. Bezos once talked about moving heavy industry into space to preserve Earth. Sometimes he sounded less like a CEO and more like somebody thinking in 100-year timelines. And that mentality shaped Amazon from the beginning. The company constantly prioritized scale, infrastructure, and long-term positioning over immediate comfort. Some people admired Bezos for that obsession. Others viewed it as deeply dangerous. But either way, its impact became impossible to ignore. Today, billions of people interact with Amazon systems constantly without realizing how deep the infrastructure goes underneath the surface. A person watches Netflix, hosted on AWS, while ordering products through Amazon Prime after speaking to Alexa inside a home filled with internet-connected devices running through cloud infrastructure. Amazon helped normalize. The modern internet feels fragmented on the surface, but underneath it, a handful of companies quietly became foundational layers of civilization-scale infrastructure, and Amazon became one of the biggest. Maybe the strangest part of the entire story is this: Amazon no longer feels like a startup success story at all. It feels more like a permanent layer of modern life. Quiet, massive, everywhere. And underneath all of it was one obsession Bezos noticed before most people understood what the internet was becoming. Systems that scale eventually stop behaving like companies. They start behaving like environments people live inside every day.
Thank you so much for listening to this audiobook. I truly hope these words inspired you, motivated you, and gave you something valuable to take with you into everyday life. If you enjoyed this recording, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and explore my other inspiring audiobooks created to support your growth, mindset, and motivation. Your support means a lot and helps me create more content for listeners like you. See you in the next audiobook.